Hello, everyone, and welcome. We'll just get started in about a minute, just as people are joining the webinar. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the results of the WOW Digital Survey for 2026. We're very excited to share the results with you on the seventh annual survey. I'm Santa Lagati. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Marketing at the Retail Council of Canada. It's always a pleasure for us to work and partner with Leger as they present these very exciting results. I will say it's been a week of wow with all of these results, both the in-store for Ontario and Western Canada and Quebec, and today with, I would say, the most or one of the most interesting aspect of what's happening digitally across the country. So there's a lot to cover, and we're very excited to see the results and how excited we are for retail in Canada. So without further delay, I'm going to announce our speakers so that we could get on with the presentation and talk about all this really exciting information. So I'm happy to share that Luc Dumont, who's the Senior VP of Consumer Insights in Leger, welcome him, as well as Yamina Tazmalal, presenter. She is the Director of Specialized Studies at Leger. So let's begin and reveal the exciting results.
Thank you so much, Santo. I would like to echo that Leger is very proud of its partnership with RCC, and we do really good work together. And it's great to be here with Yamina as well as we share some of the key takeaways from the WOW Digital 2026. Now, Santo mentioned that this particular portion of the study is in its seventh year, but in fact, the whole WOW ecosystem has been around for 16 years, and it really focuses on the brands that stand out. Now, WOW is our flagship customer experience study, and it covers both in-store and online. Santo also mentioned that we've presented the Quebec version, the Ontario version, and the Western Canada version earlier this week. But today we're going to focus on the digital experience, and we're going to go through very quickly sort of the content. We'll start with the methodology. As we are data nerds, we have to mention how this was done and that it's robust and quite robust. Then we're gonna talk about four very important and very interesting special features that Yamina will primarily present. Then we'll get to some of the key findings, sort of across the board, what we're observing, and then we're going to get to the part that everyone's waiting for, and that is the list of basically the best digital experiences in Canada. If questions come up as we go, just a reminder, just drop them in the chat. We'll leave time at the end to address them. If we can't address them during this session, we will follow up with an email, or you can follow up with an email with us as well. So, Yamina, we ready? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Amazing. So let me start quickly with the methodology. So WOW is a benchmarking study, so it's really important for us to point out that we survey tens of thousands of Canadians. This year, more than 24,000 Canadians aged 16 and over, both English and French, took part in this study. We evaluated the online experience of 346 companies across 27 sectors based on feedback, basically from about 300 recent visitors per brand. Whether or not they made a purchase or not, it's really about interaction with the brand in the digital space. We conducted this via our own proprietary panel, Leger's Leo panel, between October and December 2025. And of course, the results are weighted by key socio-demographic factors to ensure that it's representative across region, gender, age, mother tongue, Now, 346 brands and 27 sectors, that's a lot. As you can imagine, we can't measure every brand, but every year we have discussions internally about, should we add a category? Should we add some retailers? And if you have suggestions, we're always
Mhm.
open to them. So send them along and we'll assess feasibility for future editions. So as I mentioned, in addition to the rankings, which is my favorite part, this is very key. Every year we take a step back from the rankings and we like to do a deeper dive into a few key topics. So Yamina and I will share the highlights of our special sections for 2026. Let's start with social media.
Mhm. Thanks so much, Luke. So today I'm speaking on behalf of Leger Digital. And for those who don't know Leger Digital, it is Leger's in-house digital marketing agency. Now, they do a lot of stuff, but I'll try to summarize it in as simply as possible. And then if there's interest in finding out more if Leger Digital can help your brand, you can contact us and we'll be happy to help you out. So Leger Digital kind of has, let's say, three pillars. Audit, so it looks at all of your communications channel, your online behavior, your website, social media, and figures out what's working, what doesn't, what maybe needs improvement. Then we've got the strategy portion, which is about, okay, now that we've got some learnings, how can we design a strategy that makes sense and can optimize what's doing well and then improve where things are underperforming. And then finally, execute. So executing this strategy, helping you, or actually doing the full content creation for you. Again, so it's all of, there's a bunch of different things they can do, and we can tell you more about that. So just wanted to give you a little bit of the context of where some of these insights and our expertise is coming from. But I'll get now to the focusing on the data. So with social media, it's one thing to be present, but it's even more important on how you're perceived and whether or not you meet consumer expectations. So the data we're going to present are designed kind of to move away from logic to logic of presence and more to performance and value. So they can help clients guide strategic decisions, choosing the right channel, prioritizing the right types of content, ensuring that actually you're getting a good return on your investment in social media. So something to keep in mind also about this page and about this section, these are average results. So this is all the different sectors, all the different brands. These are the average results. If you are looking for specific results on your brand, on your company, we can provide that for you with our customized, personalized report. So the first question we asked was, do you remember seeing content posted on social media by the company that you're evaluating? So this is measuring resonance and recall. And 23% on average say that they remember seeing it. Because look, you could be publishing a lot of content, but if consumers don't remember it, then the impact is limited. So this is why it's a very important indicator of reach, recall, and presence in consumers' mind. And in this study, what we found was that the sector with the highest average of recall was actually upscale boutiques at 41%. Visibility and recall was also strong in jewelry, accessories, sleepwear, and swimwear. And the companies actually with the highest content visibility were Man-Made, followed by NYX and Shop Sante.
I could say, Yamina, that I definitely see that Man-Made is everywhere.
Yeah.
Not just on social media, they're on my Christmas and birthday wish lists.
Yeah. And you know what? When I saw Man-Made, it made me think I saw them on Dragon's Den. I think it was in the
Hmm.
last year. So they're really everywhere.
In the
Um,
right way, in the right way, right?
in the
So
right
yeah,
way. That's
yeah.
actually that's that, and that brings me to also where is the content being seen, right?
Hmm.
So we can see here sort of the ranking of on average, Facebook is really where a lot of people remember seeing content, and then it's followed by Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. So again, this gives us an overall average view. But when we then look at results by company, that's when you can really see, okay, am I, is Facebook really where I'm going to meet people where they're at, or should I be investing more in Instagram? So it's helping you identify the opportunities for a reallocation of your budgets in order to maximize your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of maximizing strategy, it's clear to me that Man-Made has done some incredible work. We
Yeah.
saw that 75% of the people we spoke to who saw their content saw it on Facebook. I think
Okay.
about a third on Instagram, 17% on YouTube, and 12% on TikTok. So clearly they're aligned with sort of the general trends of where people are seeing things and remembering.
So, and in addition to just, again, we're talking about it, where they're being seen, but also how is it being perceived, right? So we also ask the question of overall, what is your perception of the content posted by this company? And this helps kind of determine, whether the content strengthens the brand image, creates interest, trust, and whether or not, or is it irritating them, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what's really important for relationship building, and having, as I said, meaningful connection with your consumers. Again, and what I think is good from this, what we're seeing is that actually the overall result is positive. 87% say that their perception of the social media content published is positive, with 38% saying very positive.
Yeah, and that's so key. I mean, you mentioned sort of irritation if it's not done properly. I
Mhm.
think, I mean, in ManMade's case, we saw that, I mean, there's good news. 95% responded positively, and that
Okay.
includes 62% very positively. So, doing things in the right way. The
Mhm.
company that has the highest proportion of that very positive perception was Indigo Chapters at 84%. On the other hand, which is what we talked about earlier, the company with the highest proportion of very negative perceptions is Amazon at 25%. So something to keep an eye on.
Yes, definitely. Um, so again, and this is all kind of, I think this is all telling the story about visibility and that balance and stuff. And so being visible is a good thing, but content needs to actually provide value, right, for your consumers. So the next question we ask about is about the types of content that you want to see. And this helps us understand if it's aligned with the consumer expectation, right, of what's most viewed, what's most appreciated, and what's most shared, right, among your target audience. And on average, consumers say they prefer or would prefer to see special offers, promotions, presentation of new products, and contests. The thing, though, I really want to highlight is that 42% on the right hand side. So, on average, 42% of respondents are not actually particularly interested in any specific type of content on social media.
That's pretty high. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it really highlights the importance of truly understanding your target audience, and what their preferences are, because that's that's the key to capturing their interest.
100%. And talking about content, in the next section, we're going to talk about newsletters. Now, in a previous life, I worked a lot with newsletters, and you can kind of go crazy with what's the type of content, what's the open rate, what's the best time. And I kind of wish we had a lot of this data when I was doing that, because it would have made my life easier. But the newsletter can often also be underestimated, but it's really important to understand that direct relationship between the company and its current and potential customers. So the first things first, we ask them straight up, do you subscribe to a newsletter, right? And what we found here is 19% of respondents told us they subscribe to a company newsletter. So in other words, another way to look at it is 1 in 5 visitors, website visitors rather, is subscribed to a newsletter. Then the remainder are either former subscribers or non-subscribers, or those that visit a website that actually doesn't have a newsletter. So what's important about this question is, if you think about it, subscribing to a newsletter is a voluntary commitment to a brand, right? And so this means, yes, I am open to receiving direct recurring communication from this company. So it can really be a clear indicator of the strength of the relationship with your customers, the brand's credibility, and actually the potential, understanding the potential of the newsletter as a loyalty building lever.
Yeah, and Yamina, just to add one nuance here that I
Sure.
noticed in the data, we saw that newsletter subscriptions are especially strong in the jewelry and accessory,
Mhm.
and as well as apparel sector, which is interesting.
That doesn't subscribe. It doesn't surprise me, rather, because I do get some newsletters from apparel, jewelry brands, and they do such good stuff. There's great storytelling. You seeing new products. It's beautiful image. So that's a great example of a category where it can really shine. Then after that, we asked, okay, how often would you like to receive a company's newsletter? Again, trying to find that sweet spot, right? And the reason we ask this is because it can help you sort of calibrate as a brand the marketing pressure and understand and respect your consumers' preferred rhythm, to maximize the open rates and engagement. So kind of striking the balance between presence and being top of mind and saturation.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the data here really supports, I guess, moderation, right? We see that 21% of the respondents we spoke to say that they prefer a newsletter once a month, and then 9% 2 to 3 times a month versus only 16% who want it weekly or more. Points to a 1 to 2 times per month sweet spot across sort of, across the board, but it's important to also understand that the frequency and the desired frequency will depend on two things: the audience, but also the category. So, for example, in my case, I get newsletters daily from Lee Valley Tools, and I never delete them. If I got them daily from, I don't know, some other brand, it might not be the same. It might not be the same behavior, because it's pretty complex.
Yeah, and that's why actually with the personalized report, like I said, this is all average, but when you get that personalized report, you can see which companies, how they're performing, like your competitors, and also what sort of the standard in your particular sector. Because you're right, maybe for a particular sector, it's important to be getting them every day or once a week, but for others, once a month is enough. So that's why it's really important to personalize that. And the other thing is we also asked about content, right? So with social media, we also looked at, as we did with social media, rather, we asked about preferred newsletter content. And this is an important question, again, and this can really vary, as we were just mentioning, by sector, by brand. But the reason this is important to understand this is because it can help you build a more targeted content strategy. Avoid newsletters that are perceived as overly promotional or repetitive, and then deliver actually clear value. So you're actually, sending something that is relevant and valuable for your customers.
I kind of sensing that, I'm seeing that consumers expect privileges or rewards, right, Yamina? I mean, those are the top two.
Yeah, let's be honest. We always like a reward because I'm receiving your newsletter. So how can I get something in return, right? So that's why it's important that the newsletter, because it's kind of a privilege-based channel, it's important that the newsletter not simply be repeating what you've already seen on what they might have already seen on social media, on a website, but playing a distinct role. So more relational, more privilege. And that way that'll kind of strengthen the perception of your brand and the feeling of recognition and loyalty that can be built from that.
Amazing.
And I just said the magic word, loyalty. This is a lever that can be underestimated, but it's very powerful. And we hear this a lot when clients are speaking to our digital team. It's like, how can I, what do consumers consider genuine recognition, and what is just kind of traditional point-based program? So how do you move beyond that? So we ask consumers just like straight up, how would you like this company that you're evaluating to show appreciation after a purchase of subscription and engagement, any kind of action? So the reason we ask this question is sort of like I said earlier, it's about understanding the types of recognition that have real emotional value, that strengthen that feeling of the consumer of feeling valued, and then truly contribute to loyalty rather than just being perceived as transactional. So it helps companies move from a just reward for the sake of rewarding mindset to more of a meaningful recognition approach. So that way you can improve the post-purchase experience, stand out against competitors, and build lasting loyalty that's not just based solely on price. And Luke, looking at this data, I'm curious, what would you say is your favorite form of loyalty as a client?
It's honestly, it was striking when I saw the data, because it totally aligns with what resonates with me. Because for me, I look for things that feel both useful but also intentional. And we see it here, right? We see that on average, the strongest signals are exclusive and personalized offers, followed closely by a small gift or surprise samples. So these top choices combine basically tangible value with a sense of recognition. So it has to be, not just one. What's interesting to me, though, is it was what comes next, right? Which is somewhat more symbolic, but still a very personal gesture, right? Like a birthday message or benefit, or even early access to new products. So for me, the takeaway here is that loyalty isn't just about grand gestures. It's more, and as you said, Yamina, it's about relevance, timing, making people feel known, That's exactly what consumers are telling us here. When Simon's had its grand opening at the Eaton Center in Toronto last fall, I somehow got invited to the event. I'm assuming it was a newsletter because I'm part of their loyalty database. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of people got that email, right? But I felt special to
Yeah.
them. I felt like a VIP. And it was a great feeling.
Okay, so I've never received an invite to a VIP event, but I feel like after this webinar, like I'm gonna put it out there. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
get some, maybe I'll get some VIP invites. So thanks, Luke, for kind of sharing that, and but we'll talk about VIP stuff later on maybe. But what I think stands out, and it's exactly what you just said, is it combines tangible value with
Yeah.
personalized attention. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like costly gestures, right? It just needs to feel like it's relevant and personalized to you. So again, if we're thinking maybe something in skincare, are the samples related to my past purchases what I actually like? Is it going to be the scents that I like? So that way you as a consumer can feel recognized more as an individual and not just as a transaction. And in the final section, before we get to the rankings, we'll focus on digital practices. So overall, how companies communicate online, how often they do so, and the real impact it has on consumers. So again, how do you find that sweet spot? We've said that a few times now between presence and saturation. So we first looked at online noise, and we asked them very simply, do you feel like you see too many, too few, or just the right amount of online posts or ads from the company that you're evaluating? And this is crucial because it measures the perceived pressure perceived by consumers rather. So it allows companies to understand whether they risk overexposure and fatigue, whether they're missing actual valuable opportunities, and they can then adjust the frequency and intensity of the communication accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, you use the word overexposure, and I think we
Mm,
are in a potentially a situation of overexposure in some cases, right? With 45%, nearly half of the
mm,
respondents saying they see online posts or ads too often.
yeah,
That could be a problem. And I think 15% who say they don't notice them is also a bit of an issue, right? Because we know that companies invest a lot. So if people aren't
yeah,
noticing them, not good.
yeah. There's no impact. Exactly. And so I think the message kind of is clear here. It's not necessarily being more present doesn't actually mean more effective, right? So when nearly 1 out of 2 consumers feel like they're seeing too many communications, the risk is less about being forgotten and more about fatigue, irritation, even rejection. So that's why I think the takeaway for me of this is it's about creating value over volume.
Yeah, 100%.
So we then asked respondents whether they had a favorable or unfavorable opinion towards various types of digital practices that businesses commonly use online. And here we're kind of measuring the level of acceptability of the current digital practices. Um, because even if communication is seen, like we said before, it doesn't necessarily mean it's well received. So this question can help understand whether the practices that you're doing is actually strengthening the relationship that you have with your customer or generating irritation and mistrust.
Yeah, what really comes through here for me is that it's telling me that consumers are not anti-digital, right? They're just being
Mhm.
very selective.
Yeah.
Again, sort of echoing what we said before, but the practices that feel most relationship building are the ones that feel useful and intentional. Because at the top of the list, again, we're seeing receiving an email with a personalized offer, which
Mm,
is well received by about two-thirds of respondents. Subscribing to a newsletter or text message to receive a discount. Is also seen as generally acceptable as long as there's clear value in return, I would say. Um, a weekly newsletter with promotions or product information also performs well. I think it reinforces
mhm.
what we've already seen today. When content is relevant, people are open to it. Where things become a little bit more mixed, I would say, is with the more interruptive or automated practices like pop-ups, chat windows,
Mhm,
app notifications, and targeted ads based on browsing history. They tend to generate a more lukewarm response, I would say. They're
mhm.
tolerated by some, but clearly not loved by all. And then there are those that cross the line, right? So promotional text messages, I would say, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
um, right after a visit or an abandoned cart, for example, and
Yeah.
retargeting ads that follow you around the web. those are most likely to create some irritation.
I think that's, again, it's about that balance, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, that's going to create irritation or make people feel like it's almost a bit intrusive. So again, it's about, yes, I want personalization, but I don't want it to feel like you're following me around the whole internet all day.
Yeah. Very good point.
And on this one, so this is the last of the special features, Luke. So we're gonna get on to the real the most exciting part maybe is the ranking, although I think this is pretty interesting. This is where we talk about moving from, real concrete impact. We talked about perception, but now actual actions. And so there's a lot of information on this page, but to summarize, essentially we ask them, okay, thinking about the actions that you take, or rather, let me start over. Think about the communication you're receiving, right? Promotional email, publication on social media, a pop-up. Then tell us, what did you do after? And this is great because it helps brands understand, okay, after my promotional email, what are people more likely to do? So for example, promotional email, more people, 32% are going to purchase. Maybe a publication on social media, 29% said that they went shopping. So why can this be helpful? Well, it can help digital communication understand, whether the digital communications are generating interest, if it's actually triggering the behavior, and whether or not the actions that follow your communications are actually leading to what you want it to lead to, right?
Yeah, to me, I mean, as you say, there's a lot of information on this page. I focus on the check marks because I think what the table really shows when you focus on that is that there are, different actions are triggered by different channels and that there's no silver bullet, right? If we start with purchases, you mentioned it already, promotional emails clearly stand out. About a third of people who bought something, say an email was the trigger. That being said, the social media also plays a meaningful role, right? So it prompts action for roughly 1 in 5 purchasers. When it comes to driving in-store visits, we see a very similar pattern. So again, I think the making sure that your actions are not so much functional, but intentional, are considered. I think, again, effectiveness will depend on your objective. The channel that works best is the one that matches the action you're trying to drive, if that makes any sense.
That makes perfect sense, I think. And I would also sum it up, it's the right channel at the right moment is really key for this too.
With the right message.
With the right message.
Yep. Okay, now let's move on to the core of the webinar. We're going to start with some key findings. We're going to go through that really quickly, and then we'll follow that with the ranking of retailers based on the WOW Digital Index. Hopefully what everyone's been waiting for. So first of all, let's talk about the model itself. The WOW Index is based on a retailer's company's performance digitally across 14 experience dimensions related to things like visuals, the offers, the experience, the online assistance, and post-purchase dimensions as well. And it takes into account their relative importance, the relative importance of these dimensions within each sector, right? So we redo this analysis per sector because obviously things are not important in the same way in one sector versus the other. What we come up with then is the WOW Digital Index, which ranges from 0 to 100. You'll see here we've got some of the dimensions have red text. These are used to directly feed the WOW Digital Index. And then we've got some that are in bold black text. These are more transactional dimensions of the online experience that were also evaluated to add context, but they're not feeding into the actual number because we reflect the recently lived experience across the non-transactional dimensions. So those in red. Let's start with the big picture. Overall, the WOW Digital Index is quite stable. 30% of retailers improved, 32% declined, and 38% are holding steady for a net balance of -2. In other words, no major shift year over year. We do, however, observe some changes worth noting in some sectors: hardware and home improvement, lingerie, footwear, they've improved the most, while online marketplaces, real estate, and jewelry and accessories are under the most pressure. So these are directional trends. Performance still varies brand by brand. I think the most important insight this year is behavioral. Consumers are visiting retail sites less often. And we spoke about it during the in-store webinar from Tuesday. Same thing there. So it's not like one is replacing the other. Overall, shopping is a little bit down. I would say that part of the challenge is, based on all the information that's here. And just a reminder, you will get, I'm not going to talk about each point, but you do get this booklet after the webinar. I would say that part of the challenge is that you can't just focus on optimizing the experience. You have to be in a position to create a compelling reason for people to visit your website and or app. And when when consumers do visit, the expectations are higher. Digital is increasingly efficient and transactional, but in many cases less inspiring. Sites are easier to use as technology evolves and we learn from online behaviors, but they're also easier to substitute. So, think about that. There are fewer visits, higher expectations. So you have to make every online visit matter more than ever.
Yeah, and just to jump in and just sort of sum up what you said, kind of linking to our previous section, is it's beyond simply optimizing the digital journey and avoiding overexposure. It's about focusing on clear value, prices perceived as fair, and personalized communications. Again, delivered right time, right channel, and as you added to, right message.
Absolutely. And you use the word value, clear value. It's really important to note that increasingly in all of our retail research, we're seeing that the definition of value by consumers is becoming increasingly complex.
Okay.
It used to be just price and convenience, but now it's, price, convenience, relational, experiential. It's a tough one to grasp. So you have to really think about it. So I could yammer on all day, but now I would like to focus on the best digital experiences in Canada across all sectors. These are brands that have achieved a WOW Digital Index of 90 or higher, and therefore truly stood out this year. I'll move through them quickly, but we'll talk a little bit about why each brand made the list. Drum roll, please. So at number 13, we have Mais Babette. They are a repeat performer in the WOW ranking. Mais Babette continues to combine a strong brand image with an efficient, frictionless transaction. One thing that really comes through for us in the verbatims, we ask people to provide comments, is that their sense of humor seems to really resonate with consumers. So the tone of their content plays a role in their performance. At number 12, we have Reitmans, one of the strongest comebacks this year, jumping from 33rd place last year to 12th this year. They've done a lot of work in terms of making their navigation smoother, providing additional and clearer product information, and the transaction experience is much more solid, which explains their better performance this year. At number 11, we have SAQ. They're a consistent WOW performer. They continue to stand out for inspiration, providing advice, a personalized service, and their loyalty program and their loyalty communications. They remain a true benchmark in this category. At number 10, we have Starbucks. They are also a true loyalty powerhouse. They rank number 1 for loyalty, tied with Fizz, but they also perform really well on brand image and aesthetics.
And Luke, if I could jump in, I don't know if you know anyone that uses the Starbucks app. My sister is a very loyal, you too, okay, very loyal, and you can see why it performs well. The experience is seamless, highly personalized, like there's always something new to discover. And I learned recently that the name of Starbucks' proprietary AI is actually called Deep Brew, which I think is kind of cute. It's kind of a smart
I love
name.
that.
I love smart. That. It's very clever. So because we know Starbucks is a coffee company, but it's also an innovation company, right? And so constantly looking for new ways to personalize the customer experience while improving how it does business. So it's not surprising that we see it in this in one of the top performers this year.
I mean, it really shows how much execution matters when digital is done right? And they've done a great job. So back to the rankings. At number 9, we have Jack and Jones, another very impressive rebound. up from 63rd last year. So they've made
Wow.
strong gains in their brand image, easier navigation, better cross-channel flow, and more competitive pricing, which has helped them tremendously. At number 8, we have NYX. They continue to build pretty strong momentum. They perform
Mhm.
very well on look and feel, the navigation of the website and app, and information search with, I would say, a noticeable improvement in their brand image year over year, which is contributing to.
Mm.
And I think I think, Yamina, we had some interesting comments from consumers about NYX.
Yeah, we did. So again, we looked at those verbatims because that's something that's really great
Mhm.
about the report is you can actually see word for word what people say about your brand. And the thing that kept coming back is that NYX is inclusive in their
Mm.
communications. And so we know that they're known for their specialty underwear and their swimsuits, but they also have a strong sense of social responsibility, and that comes through in their communications and in their initiatives. And that's something that's very important for customers.
No, that's a great point. At number 7, we have another repeat WOW performer, which is Shop Santé. Consumers highlight here their product variety, their transactional experience, and the creativity of their content. They are well known for being associated with some very strong influencers in their collaborations, which is appreciated by consumers. At number 6, we have Les Fermes Loofah Farms. They perform extremely well across multiple dimensions, especially personalization, providing the feeling of autonomy for consumers who are interacting with their app or website, their customer ratings that they provide, and their product discovery. I think this is a brand that makes online grocery feel empowering as
Mm,
opposed to overwhelming. I haven't
mm,
been to their website or used their app since I've moved to Ontario, unfortunately, but
mm,
I do remember it well.
mhm.
At number 5, we have Aerie. Um, they maintain their place in the WOW ranking. Here, consumers really value the guidance, the product ratings, and reassurance that help them choose confidently. A theme we also saw to some extent with Loofah.
And Luke, I have to jump in on Aerie because many of us know that it's owned by American Eagle. And in our comments, actually, Sydney Sweeney came up quite a few times, which for those who are familiar, she was in the sort of a, let's say, controversial or led to controversy, an ad by done by American Eagle. And I guess the good thing for Aerie is that Aerie continues to be known for unretouched photos, body positivity, and of course, again, a great online experience.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out of the Sydney Sweeney conversation, if that's
Fine.
okay,
That's okay.
and talk about this year's breakout story, in my opinion, and that's Man-Made. They
Mhm.
leapt from 186th place last year, and they improved their performance across
Yeah.
almost all dimensions. I think the only thing that consumers are asking for is a little bit more product variety.
Mhm.
But that I think that's an area the brand is already expanding. And here we had also really great verbatims that highlighted the tone and humor of their content that's very, very
Mhm.
much appreciated. At number 3, we have La Maison Simons, or Simons, as we say in Toronto. Last year's number 1 and still a clear benchmark. Simons continues to excel on their brand image, aesthetics, the simplicity of everything, and efficiency of everything that when you deal with them in the digital realm. At number 2, we have Mia. They're a jewelry retailer, and they're a standout in terms of their experience. They're top of mind for new product discovery, really good pricing, competitive pricing, navigation of their app and website, and rich product storytelling, which is really key in this particular sector. And they're really also very much appreciated for their checkout experience.
And Luke, I have to bring it back to newsletters as we talked about earlier, because one of the things that was mentioned in the comments about Mia was they mentioned the frequency of the content and also the relevance
Mhm.
and the way that they presented really well all of the new products. So again, a great newsletter leading to a great wow score.
Yeah, well said. I mean, we said it earlier and we're saying it again and again and again because it's so important that the content, when it hits the right tone and the right cadence, it just elevates the entire experience, right?
Yep, 100%.
So good job. Um, now It's time to reveal the top ranked digital experience this year, and that is CaseMe. This is our top digital experience across the board. They rank highest on look and feel and product variety, and they truly stand out for personalization and new product discovery. Consumers really appreciate the creativity in the marketing, especially on TikTok, and the way that brands speak directly to generations that I think it's Gen Z that they target. Again, a very clear example of digital done right and paying off. So given the number of sectors, so these were the top performers. Congratulations, everybody. If you're in the office, you can open that bottle of bubbly. Now we're going to go through the sectors, and we said there were quite a few sectors at the beginning and quite a few brands. So we'll focus on the top few. Again, you don't need to take screenshots. You will be getting this booklet after the call, and we publish the numbers on our website as well. So by sector, if we focus on alcohol and cannabis, we have SAQ ranking first. Of course, they were part of our top 12. They continue to deliver very strong online, notably stronger online experience than LCBO.
And Luke, if I should mention, like I moved from Ontario and now I live in Quebec, right? So I have experience both with the LCBO in Ontario and SAQ in Quebec, and I can tell you that the attachment and love for the SAQ in Quebec is unparalleled. So I'm not surprised to see it perform so well again this year.
Well, funnily enough, I made the opposite move from Quebec to Ontario. And yes, yeah, the difference is quite real, not only in my experience, but in what I hear and what I observe. So very interesting. So in convenience store sector, we have Couche-Tard leading the sector. In grocery, we have Loofah Farms. They rank first by a pretty wide margin in a highly competitive sector. And we have M&M Foods in second place. They were newly evaluated this year and are making a strong entry into the rankings. And in pharmacy, we have the Medicine Shop ranking first. In department stores, we have La Maison Simons ranking first this year. In furniture and decor, we have Corbeil Appliances leading the sector. And in electronics and office supply, CaseMe, they stand out clearly. Again, not only ranking first in the category, but also in our top performers overall. And there's a significant gap here versus Central Hi-Fi, which is in second place. Now, let's look at eyewear. We have Bon Look ranking first. In beauty, we have Lush leading the sector, with several other brands in this category delivering strong online experiences. So many of them above, 83, 85, so on the verge of being in the top.
And Luke, if I can interrupt to talk about Lush, because Lush is famously sort of considers himself a socially responsible enterprise, and actually many of us know 3 years ago they left social media kind of as a stance against big tech, but also a stance against what they were seeing on the platforms, and they weren't happy about it. But it actually hasn't slowed business. According to the brand itself, their newsletter, now keep in mind these are global numbers, has 6 million email subscribers, and its app has 1.7 million users worldwide. So I think this is an example of a brand that knows how to engage with its customers and, again, meet them where they're at with a newsletter and a rewards program that keeps the customers coming back, even though they went a little bit against the grain, let's say, than their competitors.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great success story of something that was possibly a little bit risky, a little bit scary.
Very true.
Yeah. In the jewelry sector, we have Mia, with Pilgrim also performing very strongly in the jewelry category. And then in footwear, we have Aldo taking the top spot, just ahead of Spring and Shoe Company. In specialty retail, we've talked about Starbucks taking the first place, but we've got Nespresso very close behind. In natural products, we have Shop Santé standing out clearly. And here the gap with the rest of the sector is pretty meaningful. It really tells me that Shop Santé is a player to look at, as they are the benchmark for the digital experience in this category. In arts and crafts, we have Lee Valley Tools leading the sector. And in toys and games, we have Lego once again ranking first in this category, and they continue to set the standard for their category. In sports and outdoors, we have La Tulipe leading the sector this year. They stand out again in a very competitive category, but some other very strong players like Puma, Lululemon, Adidas, Empire. In telecommunications, we have Fizz continuing to hold the top position year over year. They've done really well year over year. In hardware, we have Canac ranking again first. Again, confirming the strength of their online experience in a sector that we saw improving earlier. We talked about that. And in meal delivery, we have Fresh Prep taking the top spot. They've continued to expand. They acquired Cook It in Quebec and recently have focused on growth in Ontario. So that's clearly reflected in its digital performance. In the pet sector, we have Chewy Canada taking the first place. They lead a category with generally strong digital execution, so congratulations. In apparel, we have Jack & Jones, with Reitmans also delivering a very strong online experience. In lingerie, sleepwear, and swimwear, we have 4 brands that clearly stand out. So a category that's done very well this year for creating a truly wow experience, and that's Man-Made, Aerie, Knix, and Babette.
And to bring up Knix and Man-Made again, I think they're really, both of them are great examples of those digital first direct to consumer brands that actually are expanding into like the real world. In other words, brick and mortar. So Man-Made has announced it's opening its first brick and mortar this year, and Knix, as of last fall, they had almost 20 stores. They're expanding really fast, and they are also expanding into the US. So Luke, I'm thinking maybe next year we're going to have to at least add Knix to our in-store wow, if possible.
I love that idea, and I'm also thinking that the brick and mortar for Man-Made better be near me. We'll assess. We can assess feasibility, because we do include new players every year if it's feasible. So maybe I'll get back to you on that before next year.
Perfect.
In online marketplaces, we have Amazon ranking first. I think what's to me a little bit just one little comment here about Temu, ranking 330th. They reach about a quarter of Canadians, and their pricing, their assortment resonates, but the online experience remains a major weakness. So something to look out for. In real estate, we have Centris retaining its first place position. Financial institutions, we have EQ Bank ranking number 1, and Promutuelle Assurance takes first place in the insurance sector. So congratulations to these 3 as well. In luxury retail, a new sector this year, congratulations to Dior for ranking number 1. Another new sector this year is the tax software, and Wealthsimple delivers the best online experience. We included Wealthsimple here. I mean, they're primarily known for their investment tools, but since they acquired a tax software, I think it was Simple Tax in 2019, they've been a very key player in that space and perform really well against the other tax software players. In lottery and gaming sector, we have Atlantic Lottery Corporation ranking first.
So thank you for that, Luke, going through all those rankings. Want to congratulate all of this year's winners. Those at the top of the rankings, the sector leaders. Just a reminder, you will receive a booklet with the full ranking as well as a link to the webinar recording shortly. At some point throughout the day. And keep in mind, these are an overview of the results, right? So if you want to understand the why behind your performance, figure out where you're doing well, where you could improve, and also compare yourself to your competitors, the personalized in-depth reports will answer all of your questions and identify, which dimensions are important drivers in your sector, and then where your online experience is performing well and where there are improvements to be made. In addition, I want to remind you that if you want to take these wow insights even further, Léger has a bunch of different types of additional services that can be used, including shopper insights, where you can track in real time where your customers are shopping, how often. You've got the customer experience, our CX team that is can analyze your current journey maps, design and implement voice of customer programs, and much more. And then, of course, we can't forget our friends in our digital agency that they can look at what you're doing and then maximize user experience across digital touch points. and really create optimized digital experiences to drive higher conversion rates. For any questions, please contact solutions@leger360.com. All right, back to you, Santa. Oh, sorry, Luke.
No, I was just gonna say thanks, Yamina, and I would like to once again congratulate all of the winners this year.
Mhm.
If one thing is evident from the data that we collect, the comments that we look at, is that providing a wow experience in the digital realm is not easy. So
Yeah.
kudos to everybody who
Yeah,
Yes,
very
rose to the
no,
top.
I echo the sentiment. Congratulations to all of the all of the winners. It's great to see the rankings. It's great to see such diversity of businesses, but also having some players in the list on a recurring basis is such great information, and it's really a time to celebrate for everybody who was a part of this. We do have some questions that are in the Q&A if we have some time
Plenty of time.
that I would like to ask. Someone would like to know, out of curiosity, are there any entertainment or gaming companies included, or they just didn't make the list?
So because the WoW study is an ever evolving model, we did not include the gaming sector in this year's edition.
Right.
I don't think we've ever included it, Yamina. I don't know if you
I don't think
remember,
so. No, I think
but
you're
that's a great example of a suggestion.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we'll take that. Yeah, we'll take that
right.
back
Mhm.
and see if we can add it next year.
Someone had a really interesting question. They wanted to know in the chart, it seems that most customers seem to favor communications with where there are discounts included. Is this the only type of personalized content we believe would be acceptable to customers, or would educational content based on their journey be appreciated as well, if you learn that from the study?
Well, I mean, what we looked at sort of was like a global view of all sectors combined. I'm quite certain that that would, and I don't have it top of mind. We can look into it, but
Yeah.
quite certain that that would be different based on the sector. Um,
Exactly.
just top of my head, like I'm thinking hardware and do it yourself. Yes, maybe educational content might be more relevant
Yeah,
versus new product discovery in
great.
apparel or sporting wear. But
Yep.
TBD, we can look at that.
We did have another question. Someone asked, you mentioned today overexposure to brand content, particularly on social media, in advertising and via email. How do you believe a company can remain relevant to its target audiences?
Well, the key is understanding that your target audience is not monolithic.
Mhm.
So, it's
Right,
really important to do
exactly.
research to figure out, are there different types of people, different strategies for the different sort of strata of people within the pool of customers that I have? Because that's often what happens, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's a one size fits all strategy,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So
Uh,
more
oh,
research.
just as people want to see gaming, we people are also saying, could we include food marketplace in next year's ranking, like Skip, Uber Eats, or DoorDash? That would be interesting too. As
Yeah.
those experiences are very important, although they represent a lot of brands as well. But
Mhm.
it'd be interesting to see how they specifically rank. Uh,
Sure.
we have
Great
some
idea.
additional ones. How do you select the companies included in this study?
That's a very complex answer here. So first of all, there's a lot of brainstorming with our committee. There are experts from across the board and across the country because we have offices pretty much everywhere. And we talk about sort of like what's new, what's emerging, what should be added. But above and beyond all of that, like the key is making sure that we can actually survey a robust sample for the players that we need to include because we want this to be it's a very rigorous model and approach. So sometimes there just is not that penetration that allows for a player to be included. But it's a combination of us talking to each other
Mhm.
as experts across the board in retail. Even Santo, you and I have talked about it, and we
Right.
also our clients can say, "Hey, I'd like my category included," and
Well, and I could see it here, like, because it evolves every year. You include new categories, there's new players in each category. So, we heard some suggestions today, so that should indicate that it's not rigid, right? It changes based on what consumer preferences are in the moment.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one more, we had a really, I think this is a good question. Someone asked, how should we view the balance between customer preference in a survey that like this versus the business outcome? You know that respondents will tell us, they want less frequent emails versus what we know about sales and engagement metrics, tend to improve with frequency, assuming everybody gets relevant content. So
That is an amazing question.
That's-
So amazing that I'm stumped for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to go back to sort of that monolithic thing. Like, yes, if you're hitting 1 million people 10 times a day, stuff will happen. But you can't forget that you may be sort of eroding goodwill among a different set of people within that larger group. So I get it. There's going to be push and pull between those two
yeah,
ideas. Yamina, I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I was going to say one, yeah, definitely agree with you. But then I think also that's why something like a CX
Mm,
study or platform can be really helpful because with
super.
customer experience, you can measure in real time like what's going on, get actually from those that are shopping. And same thing with digital. With our digital audits, we also have a voice of consumer portion
right.
that can be
That's
part
right.
of the
That's
study,
right.
and you can actually
Yeah.
ask them directly again in real time. Of course, you're right with research people tell us one thing, they don't always do it, so it's challenging, but it's about mitigating that with different approaches that we can do at Leger.
Yeah, and I think when people say they want less, that they say, they'd rather have less frequent emails, but if the content was relevant,
Yep.
then and it
Exactly.
was, then I think that that's when people, are willing to read and click through, open and click through.
100%.
So it's good.
Yep.
And I think I'm just seeing if there are any ones that we didn't answer. Oh, we could end with this one. Someone asked, influencers, do we still feel they're relevant today? That's a great question.
Oh, I think it depends on the type of
Yeah.
Yep.
influencer and again the
Yeah.
tone and their, if someone feels like they're overly paid, I don't think that works anymore because I think people see through it. Yamina, you know what an influencer is more than I.
I don't I don't know about that, but what I can say is in a variety of specialized studies, we talk about influencers. So our youth study, our newcomer study,
Right.
our straight up digital study. And influencers are still really, really important. It just depends on the audience, depends on the content. But trust and that people put in influence is still quite high. So they still remain
Yeah,
important. Again,
absolutely.
depending on the content, depending on the community you're trying to reach as well.
And
And I
sorry,
think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to add one thing. I think that this would be a case where there's certainly a portion of the population that would say, I don't like influencers, but they're still
Yeah.
influenced by them.
Yep.
Yes, yes. And
Yep.
and I think also kind of related what we're seeing a lot of the brands do, and some of the brands here listed have done it is more and more unique collaborations. If
Yeah.
anybody on the call has not seen the collaboration by Liquid Death Beverages and Elf Cosmetics, I encourage you to take a look at the YouTube video and the product. The product is now sold out, but that's another way to get people really interested and in getting your content and also really engaging. So I think we'll start to see more collab. It might be interesting to kind of look at collabs and see how they influence people's
Yep.
decision to buy from product A and product B, right? Because you're generally bringing together disparate target groups. Anyway,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was great. Thank you. And as both Luke and Yamina mentioned, you will get a copy of this as well. And please, you could also look at the results from the rest of the Great WOW work this week for Ontario, the in-store for Ontario and Western Canada, and the in-store for Quebec. So this wraps up, like I said, quite the WOW week as we go into WOW and ugly temperatures next week, starting this week.
Mm,
So this was a great way to end the week. So thank you both and everybody for attending today. That was really interesting information. Thank you. Have a
It was
great
a
thank
day.
you,
pleasure.
Santo.
Have
Thank
a
you,
good day,
Yamina.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye.